Hi, good afternoon. This is Tracee Dunblazier. I am the president of the Coalition of Visionary Resources, and we are the trade organization for the Mind, Body, Spirit marketplace. And we have a wonderful guest today. We're speaking with Katy K. Katy K, the modern oracle, as she's known in Australia and globally, and her organization, which is Katy K's Spiritual Advancement Academy. Katy is one of our members, and as you may have remembered from last year, we do these wonderful chat casts for our cover members for you to get to know us and for us to get to know you. So without any further ado, I'm going to invite, there we go. Here's Kathryn Keenan of the Katy K Spiritual Advancement Academy. Welcome, Katy.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Now, I just want to tell everybody that it's 5 a.m. for you.
Very early.
Very, very early. You look fantastic.
Thank you.
You look like it's 12 noon. Good for you.
I thought I'd be blazing red eyes at you.
Right. Well, so first of all, tell me about yourself. And you are called the Modern Oracle. What does that mean, and where did you get that pen name?
I suppose it comes from. Well, I've been doing this all my life. My parents are both psychics or mediums, but I have a modern take. And I was in the corporate world, and my husband, knew I had this. I hid it from him when we were first married, but he found out in funny ways. And so he had a conversation with me, and he said, if you're going to go into this full time, he said, can you not wear long flowing dresses? Let the hair grow under your arms down to your knees and, go feral sort of thing. And I said, why would you even think that? But, as a corporate person, that is what he'd basically seen. And I said, no, I'm going to give it a modern take. And, I'm very blunt, very down to earth. I go right into your everyday problems, everything that's happening around you, because we have to deal with life. And more so dealing with life than being, talking about future past lives or things that are at the other end of woo-woo, which, everyone loves, and I love too, but I'm very down to earth, very grounded. And we have modern day problems. And so when I design my deck, I use modern images so they're relatable to our life right now.
Well, it's interesting when your husband so genteelly brought up the stereotype of long underarm hair, and it's interesting when you think of mediumship and psychics. We still, even today, I mean, it's starting to change, but even today, we still have this illusion of either the tribal relationship back in the First Nations when they didn't use razors, right? And when people like people were allowed to be who they were, and then that was looked at as savage by these other communities or these other cultures, right? So we're contending with that, and then we're also contending with being freestyle and all love, which is very much the 60s and 70s hippie culture. And then we still have the 1910, channeling. You have to, and then you tap out, and then you are taken over by something else. Like, we have these very old stereotypes that we have to contend with. So how do we help people change that? Change their opinion of what it means to be psychic?
I think a lot of it comes from, the gypsy that had the crystal ball or the cards, and people see that. And I actually like that. I know someone that's got a caravan that's done up like that, and I'm so
Right.
envious. I would have one of those in a heartbeat. But changing comes with everyone. Well, I encourage all the people I teach, and what I do is I turn people into professional psychics. And what I encourage them to do is to find their own style. It's
Right.
not about reproducing me. It's not about becoming something they don't want to be. If they want to be that person, they can be. And
Right.
I'm mainly working with their gifts. And if they want to find out how to turn it into a business, because I have a corporate background, I help them in that way too. But
Right.
yeah, there's always going to be people like that. And I work at all the Mind, Body, Spirits and expos here. And walk around all the stands and you see all the individual ones, and different people are drawn to different people. But
Right.
I sort of kick butt a little bit too when they come to me, and I get a lot of mothers send their teenagers to me as well to
Right.
sort them out. And once I can
Yes.
tell them things about them that I couldn't possibly know, then when I give them a bit of a blast about why you're doing such a silly thing, they sort of straighten
Right.
up a bit.
Right.
Yeah, or I've found that they're pregnant and their family didn't know, so I help them navigate through that. You get all
Right.
types, or I'll get a business person that comes to me and I can go straight into where their business is suffering. And it's simply because the way I work is, if I have a reference, something that I can go to, I can pick that up. But if it doesn't
Right.
exist in my world, I'm possibly not going to pick it up. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Because it
Yes.
doesn't exist. And they tap into my knowledge. So if there's a business failing, I can go straight in and see where it's happening and how we're going to fix this.
Right.
And it's the same with when I'm teaching students, I can see what's missing or what they're not tapping into, or where they're falling down, and gently bring them back. I might, be full on when I'm doing a reading, but when I'm with my students, the idea is not to scare them, as I found I was when I first
Right.
went off to mediumship college in England.
Oh, interesting. Where was
Otherwise,
that?
that was the Arthur Finlay College of Mediumship. And once I
Yeah.
discovered that, I was going back sometimes twice a year and every year, just to
Mm-hmm.
fine tune my skills, to learn how to teach, to see all the different teaching styles. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'd go to a beginner's course just to see how someone teaches. But not
Right.
only that, we forget things. Over 20 years, 40 years, you learn a lot of stuff and you forget the
Right.
first things that you learned. And other people have different styles. And also, of course, how not to teach.
Right. Right.
What
Absolutely.
I didn't like and what other people found wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I've had teachers where they've had their favorites in the class, and everyone else was doing everything wrong, but that favorite wasn't, because they were
Right.
best friends. And
Right.
and so the rest of the class is all shut down, but that person's shining and doing
Yeah.
so well.
Yes.
And that's a way of not to teach. Not that I ever did that, but
Right.
finding out there are people that do teach like that.
Right. Learning to be inclusive is a
Yes.
really important of, it's very interesting. It's a very important part of any business model today. And unfortunately, it hasn't been that way.
No.
We have a system that is based on exclusivity,
Yes.
and now things are really only going to be fully successful when there is inclusivity. And there's a lot of people that have to learn how to change their thoughts, their behaviors, their whole relationship to whatever their social bias is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Do you find in teaching mediumship that working with somebody's social bias comes into play?
It does. And I'm very aware that people have ideas of how they are and don't realize what
Right.
their potential is. And
Yes.
they may have outside influences that have held them back or made them
Mm-hmm.
fearful of, say, coming out
Right.
of of the closet and saying, I
Right.
am a psychic or I am a medium, because
Absolutely.
they have fear. If they do come out, will they be socially excluded? I find it
Hmm.
quite funny. I mean, I hid for a long time, and I have parents that, my mother would always say she was psychic. She would claim it. And my
Uh-huh.
stepfather was very grounded, and and my husband was a policeman at the time. And, when we first
Wow.
started courting, and he was very grounded. And, after a few years, she'd say, I'm psychic. And he'd go, psycho, like that. And then
Right.
eventually
Wow.
it became a joke, and my mother would laugh and he would laugh together. It wasn't a bad thing.
Right.
And then he'd say to me, if you're going to do this, don't go to the extreme. But what I
Right.
found was, I had this gift. I grew up with it. I didn't know how to handle it, and I wanted to know how to turn it on like that. I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
have to go seeking or being worried. Am I going to start and nothing's going to come through? How do I
Right.
make this
Yes.
happen? And everyone I
Yes.
studied under, it was like this big secret. They didn't want you getting too
Mm-hmm.
close. And I now know
Yes.
that a lot of them have imposter syndrome, where they feel that, yes, they have this gift, but they don't even believe they do sometimes. And it's simply
Yes.
because they can't turn it on like that. And I say,
Right.
when you connect mediumistically, it's like a Tupperware party. You can invite everyone, but you can't force them to turn up. And they may
Right.
say they're coming, but they may not be there. Generally,
Right.
they are. Um,
Yes.
but there's always this apprehension that, maybe this is the day it's not going to work. And
Mm-hmm.
you because it's just there and you have no control over it. So I
Right.
wanted to learn, how can I make people more confident so that they can control it, and go back to the modern way where, here's the steps. If you do these steps and you believe in you and you have confidence, and look how much
Mm-hmm.
I've taught you, and look how much you've done, and keep a
Right.
journal and write down all the things where you've done something right and got it
Right.
right, and then write down when you failed as well. And so then the
Right.
next time you fail, you can go back and say, hey, I might have failed, but it happened because of this. And look
Right.
how many other times I've got it right. Because this is the
Mm-hmm.
only industry where you have to be 100% correct all the time, or you're a
Right.
fraud. If a
Right.
doctor makes a mistake, okay, it was a mistake.
They have insurance for that.
Yeah, they have. If a builder makes a mistake, that's okay. If a
Mhm.
hairdresser gives you a bad haircut, you grow it out.
Right.
Everyone else is allowed to make an error, but if a
Right.
psychic or a medium does, that's it. Then
Right.
they're a fraud. They're no good. And
Right.
that's not a realistic way. I mean, we're human. We get ill and shouldn't work if we're not feeling 100%, but we feel
Right.
committed in some way. There's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Absolutely. And I mean, my philosophy on that, I used to work in the stores a lot for 20 years. I did that and loved it. Um, but when I would see different mediums or psychics marketing themselves, one in particular, somebody left an ad on my car that said 85% accurate. And I thought, well, if I'm going to tout my accuracy, I'm not going to choose 85%. I'm going to go for 100. Like if I'm going to tell people, I'm going to go for 100 because I believe that whatever information comes is what we need.
Yes,
And we may present it through our filters, but it doesn't change the nature of the message, which that cannot be controlled by us. It is always controlled by the receiver. And they're going to
exactly.
receive what they're able to receive when they're able to receive it. And that's not dependent on its accuracy. It's accurate and they need it, and they will work through it, whether it be today, tomorrow, or in the next decade. You know what I mean? Like I've had a ton of people who thought I was a fraud, and then 10 years later, like, oh, you
Yes.
said X, Y, and Z, and it all came true.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, because I can't, I don't focus a lot on time unless that is a message that comes through. But for the most part, it's important for people to understand that the message coming through is about their relationship to it first and the message itself second.
Exactly. And I teach my students that, you know, people are on this path and they come to you and they're in a situation and you have to try and guide them onto this path. But how long it takes is up to them. You cannot hold their hand
Right.
once they leave you. And,
Right.
you know, I did a reading yesterday, a sitting reading. They call it sittings in the UK, but I call them psychic
Okay.
readings. And I said to the person, apparently I said to them a year ago that they're going to have a knee problem. And they said, oh,
Right.
I don't have a knee problem. I said, well, you're probably going to get one. So just be very careful with it. And
Yes.
so then they came back to say, hey, I've got a knee problem. Is there any way I can fix this? I said, yeah, go and see your doctor.
Yes.
You know, stop running on the pavement, all those
Right.
things. And so, you
Right.
know, we can't measure time because the spirit world doesn't measure time. Time's
Right.
very linear, and it all depends on our actions, as you said.
Right.
You know, how fast something happens. You could be going to put a book out, but you might take 10 years to do it, but you'll get that book out.
Right.
Or you might
Exactly.
be someone that goes in and just gets it done straight away and has it out within months.
Right.
But the book
Exactly.
still happens. Yeah.
So tell me, so your academy, is it all virtual? Is it all in person? How did you go about setting it up?
Okay, so I read a book by Sonia Choquette, The Diary of a Psychic, and I was very envious because after school she would go and have psychic lessons. And my mother would always say that she didn't have a lesson because she didn't have opportunities. There were no books around. She just did what she did. And
Right.
she would sometimes just blurt out things. And she also was someone that would get dreams where her mother would come to her and tell her when someone was going to die. And I decided I never wanted to know that. There was way too much responsibility. But also, what good is it? You can't say, oh, well, you're going to die. Everyone's going to die, you know,
Right.
at some stage. And what are they going to do? Go home and wait? And what if you're wrong? What if you got the time wrong? All those sorts of things. And so I wanted to teach that there are rules. And so I wanted to teach one-on-one because I couldn't get one-on-one teaching. And it wasn't very practical to be teaching one-on-one, but I did it for a lot of years. They'd come to me,
Right.
I'd watch them grow. I'd help them even to the stage where they're setting up their business. They'd go out,
Right.
they'd become professional psychics, they would grow. And word got around and people just kept coming. And the
Right.
interesting thing was I would charge half the price of what I was charging for a reading. And I
Right.
would put them first before I would put actually doing readings. And my business model was not working. And I got a coach and she said, an hour is an hour. And whether you're doing a reading or teaching, you must charge that same
Right.
price. And you
Right.
must value yourself, because if
Yes.
you don't value yourself, the other person won't. And the
Yep.
interesting thing I teach my students is the cheaper you are, the less they value you. And
Yes.
I've heard stories of, I had a student come to me and she said that she was excited. She'd booked to go and see Sylvia Browne in New York. And
Yeah.
she lived in Australia, so expensive airfares to go all the way over there. And she
Yes.
got an email saying, you know, you get to ask one question, what is your question going to be? And she paid $800 US, thought she
Yep.
was going to be the only one there, got there, and there was 8 others that had all paid $800 US. They were all
Right.
going in together and they were all going to have one question. But the
Wow.
reason Sylvia could charge that and do that
Yeah.
and everyone would accept it was because she was deemed really good. And, you know, I
Right.
admire the woman
Yes.
because she was so professional or had so much time. She was a celebrity, she was famous, and people will
Right.
pay more to see a celebrity.
Right.
And so if
Absolutely.
you know, I could pay $500 for this pen in a pen shop, or I could pay $5 because their pens were too expensive and they end up liquidated. But that
Right.
pen, if I've paid $500 the first time, is still worth $500 to me. But the
Right.
$500 pen is going to be in a special case, and the $5 one probably will end up on the floor of my car.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I think that I completely agree with you, and I have a lot of people who who say, well, isn't that inappropriate because aren't you a spiritual person? And I always feel the need to be clear that when you're buying somebody's time, you're not buying the information. Yes, you yourself can go access the information if you'd like to do that. You can access it, you can understand it, you can lean on your own understanding to get to the same place. When you choose to work with somebody, you're taking their time, their life experience, their relationship, and you're allowing it to help anchor your own. And that's what you're paying for, that time to do that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because one of the lessons I teach my students is you must have an exchange of energy, because if you don't, you have energy going out all the time. And the old way of thinking is you have a gift from God, from spirit, from wherever. So you should not charge because you have this gift. Well, my doctor is gifted, but my doctor will not see me for nothing. My hairdresser is gifted. She will not touch my hair for no price. There is no one that says, hey, I'm going to build you a house for free because I am so gifted. I will design a house for you because I am so gifted. And you can have it for nothing because I'm gifted. Psychics have to eat. They have to put petrol in their car. They have to do everything. But some of them are living old school where you did everything for free and they possibly gave you a fruit cake or a pineapple or something in exchange. And if you are giving energy out all the time, money is energy, and you have none coming in, what happens is you get depleted, and your energy gets depleted as well. You're working so hard, you're putting everything out, and then you have to work to put food on the table as well. And we are like, we're not allowed to be wrong, and we're supposed to do everything for free. That doesn't work. It is a business. If I want to put a book out, I have to pay to put a book out. It's going to cost me money. If I'm going to put a deck out, I have to pay for that. No one's going to say, oh, you're so psychic, I'm going to do this for free. Doesn't work.
It doesn't. And money is just as spiritual.
Oh, totally.
You know, there is a way in which we manifest, attract, notice, seek, cultivate our relationship to money, and then make that money appear, whether it's in regards to work or our bank account or winning the lotto. Or I just saw it was a story the other morning. Some man in North Carolina decided that he was going to invest $25 a week for 3 months on playing the lotto. And he did. 6 weeks in, he won $100,000.
Wow.
And so he decided that he was going to continue his investment for the full 3 months to see where he would get to. And so he went every single week and played, like clockwork, and it paid off. And he saw it as a business. And and there are people who've done that. There's a lot of lotto winners continue to play and have played the same numbers for 25 years or whatever, and then all of a sudden they have this big payout. Of course, that is not average, but whatever you put your mind to, you're going to have a payoff if you see that as possible for you. If you see it as viable. Exactly. Exactly. Regardless of how it manifests. So this is such a fun conversation. Let's talk about your book first. So show me the cover of your book. Okay, The Modern Oracle: How to Tap into Your Unique Psychic Powers. Katy K, International Award-winning psychic. So tell me, give me the overall theme of your book and where people can get it.
The book is demystifying so that everyone is psychic. It's just they choose whether to build that muscle or not, because it is a muscle. It goes flaccid if you don't use it, just like if you break a leg or an arm and it's in a cast for 6 weeks. And I go into all the things that are going to help you stay safe in this world. And that is in the sense of, I have rules, and they are, you don't look unless you're asked to look. because that is someone else's business. I mean, I can turn up at a party, and the minute someone says, you're in a group and someone says, Katie's a psychic, all the cheating husbands just evaporate. They disappear. They're all gone in all directions. I'm not looking to see if they're doing that. That's
Right.
too much energy to do that. That's not
Right.
my business. And
Too much
I liken it to,
responsibility.
I like it to going through someone's underwear drawer and finding things that you probably shouldn't be finding or seeing. And
Right.
so you don't do that. And, you don't tell someone bad news. You're not the person to tell them that. You tell them how to navigate through life. You don't say you're going to die or your mother's going to die. But if they say, you might see something there, and then if you realize that they sort of know, and you would say, okay, did you know you have this? And then they would agree. I mean, I surprise myself all the time. I found, as I said, if I've got a reference and I have what's called factor V laden, a blood disorder, and I was sitting at an expo and I just blurted out, I said, you've got factor V laden. She said, how on earth do you know that? And the only reason I knew was because I have a reference. But I myself didn't know, how did I blurt that out? So I take it through, some rules about meditation. Some people think that they've got to do all these rituals before they connect, and you don't need to. I go back to basics, but I also get them to the stage where they can read a photo. They can actually do a reading and confidently. But the reason I wrote the book was I'm a skeptic. And I went through going, well, if this is so, prove it. And in my head, I had in my mind that when I meditated, I was just sitting there telling myself what I wanted to hear. And when I went off to college, I said to my team, my guides, I said, if this is so, then prove it. And I had an experience where, in a meditation, I had a grandfather that I'd never met. I only knew his name, didn't know anything about him come in. And I'm thinking, well, this is bizarre. And he actually said, you're going to learn about 5 things happening in the same month and on the same date. And some other stuff. And the next day I went to see a tutor who was a good psychic. She didn't know me, knew nothing of me. And she said, I've got your grandfather William here. And I said, before you go any further, I know nothing about him. And she said, that's okay. He says that he's told you that you're going to find out about 5 things that happen in the same month on the same day. And I was just like, seriously? There's something in this. And when I went home, I found out those 5 things that happen in the 5 things. And I said, well, I haven't even seen a photo. And he said, well, I'll make a photo happen. And I went home and I was cleaning out a drawer, and there was a piece of paper with a number of one of his sisters. And when I tried it, it never worked. And like 15 years later, we've got a prefix in front of the number, and I just rang it to see. And she answered the phone. And she said, if you'd rung 6 weeks later, they were moving into a retirement village. And I asked, would you have a photo of my father? And she said, I have, but everything's packed. And I said, can I come and see you to find out more about my grandfather? And she said, yes. And I went the next day and I was so nervous. I mean, I thought, I don't know this person. What am I going into? Is this a bikie gang? What is this, And not saying that that's bad, but, you just don't do that.
Just the unknown.
Yeah. And so I took a friend with me, and this woman was the sweetest woman. And she says, guess what? And I said, what? And she said, I opened one box and there was your grandfather's portrait on the top. And underneath it was a book with the family tree. And she said, would you like a copy? And so I got to know all my grandfather's sisters, because he was a working medium, and he had 6 sisters who were all in the New Age business. But because my father had died when I was 13 months old, when he was on the way to the hospital to see my mother give birth to my sister, I never got to know that side of the family due to a lot of family dynamics that had nothing to do with me. And anyway, the 5 things end up being, I already knew a couple of them, and that was my parents were married on the same day as my husband's parents. But we don't come from the same areas. We didn't never know
Right.
each other. We didn't know anything. It was just a synchronicity. But my father had also died on his wedding anniversary. So that was 3 things. When I opened up the family tree, my ancestors had emigrated to Australia on that same day, the 19th of May. This
Wow.
aunt couldn't go to my father's funeral because she gave birth to her son on that same day.
Wow.
On the same date, the 19th of May. So here were all these synchronicities. And then
Wow.
when I went off to college, the teacher that brought the best out of me and was the best and, and was just amazing, he had the same birthday as my father. And so when I find these little synchronies, I know I'm on the path. And so I teach about the synchronicities. I teach
Yes.
about, how I proved things, why I
Right.
believe they're true. And I want to prove things because, I am this down-to-earth person that came from the corporate world. And if I can't
Right.
prove it, how can I teach it? If I don't believe in it, how can I teach it? I'm not just going to
Exactly.
say, hey, you should go and meditate. But I do say you don't need to meditate for an hour. Monks might meditate for hours on end, but they're doing it for a different purpose. You're doing it to connect and
Right.
to conduct a reading. And so
Right.
when I created my deck, I then, knew from experience that people come to you and they ask about 6 things. And the first one will be about their relationships. The second one will be their health, should be the first, but we're not
Right.
doctors. And generally
Yeah.
we see them when they can't get answers anywhere else. The
Right.
next one will be about their careers, whether they're studying or not, their jobs. The next one will be about their finances. Am I going to get any money? Am I going to win
Right.
any money? How they make their money and their investments. Are they going to buy a
Right.
house? The next one is about travel. Am I going anywhere? And will I be safe?
Right.
And then the
Right.
6th one is spirituality. So when I created the deck, I put cards in for all these topics. So there's
Okay.
a psychic card, there's a study card, there's a marriage card, there's the love card. There is you need to exercise card. There is your
Yes.
money.
Right.
There is your business. There is your work. There's your home. I call them topic cards. And then I put
Right.
in emotions and I put in
Right.
things that were happening. So there's your broken heart or your loss. I
Right.
put in people. I added in time with seasons. So there's a time down there. I put in negative cards because life is like that. There's your
Right.
betrayal card. And
So,
then a card is a word and you need to make sentences.
yes. So, how about as a nice wrap up,
Yes.
you choose one card for a general reading for whomever's listening, like a
Okay.
message to whomever's listening.
I will pick up the card I dropped because I've put them all out and I'll just put them together. And I will do that. And I'm going to do 2 different ones simply because my second deck has a card that matches every card in this deck. And it has the message on it. And so we're going to get a message of guidance for everyone today. And I just pull them randomly. And this one here, as you can see there, it's I tied this deck into the theme of essential oils, but it has 7 ways of using it. So the chakra there is the orange, the sacral chakra. So it's about tapping into your creativity. And you can see the rest of the cards have chakra colors. And the message is success is imminent for you. You are winning and will surely reap the rewards. Keep moving forward. The affirmation for you today is I'm a winner and I'm winning and everything I do is successful. The words up the top are confident, attractive and valuable, and you can join them to the words in this deck if you want to, or join them into the words with this one to get sentences. And so it's saying be confident in everything you do because confidence is attractive. But when you are confident and you believe in you and you are attractive, you can manifest things. And know you're valuable. Know that you are valuable. Believe in you because if you believe in you, others will. If you don't
Right.
believe in you, how can you expect anyone else to? And the number
Yes.
8 down there is all about success. And because I
Mhm.
believe in the law of attraction, in the little guidebook, which has, the benefits of each of those oils, 8
Right.
is a sign of success. But in old numerology, it's about power, money, expanding, abundance, and controlling. And then if I go to the modern oracle and I shuffle it up and I pull a card out, and I'm going to just pull one randomly, and believe it or not, you saw me pull that randomly. It's the psychic card, because I'm talking to psychics today. And
Right.
it's saying, trust in your gifts. And this is
Yes.
one of my opportunity cards. You can see someone is being handed a golden opportunity. There's a golden
Yes.
sphere there, and it's not touching your hand, so you have to trust it's going to stay there. And
Right. Yes.
it's about trust. So if this came up in a subject like your health, it's trust that that things are working. If it came up about your work, it's about trusting, or there is a golden opportunity coming if they're saying,
Right.
am I going to get a job?
Yes.
Before we started, we were talking about the koalas, and I put a koala card in there, and that is about being safe. So if this came up with someone that's traveling, it's not saying you to stay put. It's saying
Right.
you will be safe, you will be secure. But if someone was saying, should I change jobs, it's saying stay put for now. And then
Right.
according to whatever the card was surrounding it, would open up the sentence to give you more information. So
Right.
if it was this one, it would say, stay put right now because there's something you need to fix. But if this was about health, it would be talking about you need more protein and greens, and you need more fruit and vegetables.
Okay.
So, there's different things, but there are messages for today.
Yes, wonderful. Well, so do me a favor, just hold
Yes.
up your deck, the box, so people can see the name. It's the Modern Oracle and the Modern Oracle Essentials by Katy K. And you can reach Katy at katy-k.com. And Katy, it has just been fantastic to spend this time for you. I'm so glad that you could get up this early for all of us. We really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. And good luck with everything. I'll look forward to future communications.
Thank you. And it's been fantastic talking to you. You're so easy to talk to. I just love you. You're just amazing. And thank you so much for giving so many people these opportunities. You are wonderful. Truly, you are.
Thank you.
And yes, I'd get up for you anytime, Tracee.
Thank you. So everyone, this is Tracee Dunblazier from COVR, the Coalition of Visionary Resources. We are the trade organization for the mind, body, spirit.